Hello, everyone. Thanks for watching another edition of the Auto Market YouTube channel and Instagram channel. And today we are talking about the whole crazy controversy going on with Greenland and Trump's appointing an envoy in his bid to quickly hasten the assimilation and conquest and annexation of Greenland. Before us, we have a book that we had published, Joey's Story. Joey's story was about, Joey Smallwood's involvement in as a father, as Canada's last father of Confederation, in bringing Newfoundland into Confederation. At the time, in the late 40s, there has been a controversy with, and again, this is how I'm going to relate Newfoundland and to what's going on with Greenland now. Now, there was a controversy in the late 40s in which where Newfoundland had to make a decision. It had to make a decision whether it wanted to remain an independent sort of dominion, or it wanted to join Canada, or potentially join the United States. Now, Queen Elizabeth, who was the head of state at that time, strongly encouraged Newfoundlanders to choose Canada because I believe Her Majesty the Queen had known at the time in foresight that Newfoundland was not going to be able to stand on its own, even though many Newfoundlanders wanted to, and that if Newfoundland did not join Canada, there was a strong chance that the Americans were going to sweep in and take over Newfoundland, and then that would not be very good for Canada today. If Newfoundland was taken over by the United States, that would not be good for our nation from sea to sea. So that was the foresight of that time. Now, in my humble opinion, based upon my experience and background in international relations, Greenland needs to make a critical choice similar to Newfoundland, ironically, in terms of how it is going to deal with these threats coming in from the United States. Now, I want to underscore that as a Canadian, I fully support Greenland, the status quo. Greenland having an association with Denmark and being able to choose its own course. I fully respect, as a Canadian, as I think most Canadians do, respect the sovereignty of Greenland and as a protectorate of Denmark. But at the same time, I'm also a concerned Canadian. I'm concerned that that any effort to annex Greenland is going to, by implication, put us as Canadians threaten our sovereignty. Because if the Americans take over Greenland, then they are going to have a foothold in the Arctic between Alaska, the state of Alaska, and Greenland, to be able to then have all kinds of an enhanced American naval and military presence to potentially just annex the North and then annex quickly Canada after that. So I want Greenland to remain as it is, but we need to be practical and start a debate in terms of looking down the road, because as many people realize, we have a madman south of the border, and we need to start thinking of things in the practical terms, not just in terms of an idealistic terms. So, from a practical standpoint, and again, I want this to go up to debate. If you're standing and you're in Greenland and you're a Greenlander, the question is, why is Trump? Why is there such a apparent lack of respect for the sovereignty of Greenland as a protectorate of Denmark? Why is there sort of this lack of respect? Now, if we take the perspective of someone who is sane and level-headed and aspires to democracy, there's no question that the sovereignty of Greenland should be respected relative to Denmark. They have a right to national self-determination. The people and to leaders and governance and politicians who respect the rule of law, there should be no question. But if you are a fascist and are looking at Greenland and are looking at that as an opportunity to seize control of resources, the kind of stuff that is going on with Venezuela now. If you see Greenland as the opportunity to just go up there, destroy the whole place, and make it basically a mining colony for completely destroying the article and making it, disregarding the environment and just going up there and extracting oil. If you are a fascist, okay, you were going to be not respecting Denmark. Why? Well, let's look at the size of the army of Denmark. Now, let's, from a fascist standpoint, the size of the army of Denmark is just over 20,000 officially, which is not that much. I mean, even by our standards of Canadians, we don't think that our army is that big, but is a heck of a lot bigger than just over 20,000. So they don't have a very big army, not very big. Okay, from a fascist standpoint. So from a fascist standpoint, Greenland looks right for the pickings. Okay, and what's even more important from a fascist standpoint is that Denmark does not have a tremendous combat history. The last time I believe that Denmark was engaged in a military conflict that had held its own was the 17th century. Okay, so you're going to ask me, well, what happened to World War I? What happened to World War II? Well, not so good. Okay, what happened to World War II was that there was pretty much no resistance. Germany hardly even had to bother, and then there was complete capitulation by the army of Denmark, and they were just controlled and occupied without much of more of a blink of an eye. So that's what happened to Denmark in World War II, and not much better happened to Denmark in World War I. There was actually, there was not resistance. Whereas from a Canadian standpoint, we have had, for example, in our cultural memory, the War of 1812, where we fought like gangbusters against a military much bigger than the size of us, and was able to withstand them and resist. We have, as Canadians, we have also celebrated how we were able to resist the Germans, and we went in there, freed the Netherlands. So as Canadians, we have a completely different military tradition and have a tradition of resistance, whereas in Denmark, it is not the same. They don't have, from a fascist standpoint, Denmark is not going to be regarded with any kind of respect, unfortunately, because of their lack of any recent history of resisting imperial aggression. So if you are from a practical standpoint in Denmark, sure, and not in Denmark, rather Greenland, is, you have a right to national self-determination, okay? But I think that people in Greenland need to start thinking a little outside the box, because if there was an actual attempt to invade Greenland, Denmark has a complete lack of military resources to resist that type of aggression. And do you think really that NATO is going to, use one of its articles in terms of, to engage in a military combat against one of its actual biggest funder in NATO? Do you think that NATO is going to confront the United States militarily over the invasion of Greenland? So this is the optics that Trump is looking at. So what is the practical alternative to this scenario? What is the practical alternative to Greenland being annexed without with Denmark just folding out of necessity because it lacks the military resources and has not been able and has no already a strong memory of resisting imperial aggression relative to the Canadian standpoint of resisting being involved in a variety of conflicts and so what is the alternative? So again, I'm not saying that I'm not advocating this. I'm just saying this for a debate and discussion that Greenland definitely needs an extra layer of sovereignty in order to prevent um, a scenario like World War II happening again, where an imperial aggressive entity comes in, asserts its dominance, and they don't have the capacity to resist. So, what is the alternative to this? The alternative to this is Greenland embracing its identity with the Inuit, embracing its newfound relation. Because now, I mean, in the last many weeks, the Canada and Greenland has opened up and are exchanging consular missions. So, in my view, if Greenland, on top of its relationship to Denmark, started to explore becoming, adding Canadian provincehood to its sovereignty so that it doesn't give up its relationship to Denmark, but also becomes a province of Canada, like Newfoundland became a province of, of Canada. If it became a province of Canada, then I believe that that would give, from a substantive standpoint, the additional sovereignty that Greenlanders can claim from being able to be supported by a nation like Canada, which has shared a non-hostile, a non-belligerent relationship, a country which has shared a culture through the Inuit in Canada's north and the Inuit in Greenland. Canada and Greenland, in my view, need to go beyond its consular exchange and look about enhancing its relationship. One step could be, from the consular mission, could be a common market between Greenland and Canada. That would be one method of enhancing sovereignty somewhat. But in my view, there's no that the best security for Greenland's future is for them to start contemplating, just like Newfoundland in the late 40s, they need to start contemplating a Canadian relationship that's much more stronger than it is, a actual provincehood as a means of protecting and us coming together in a way that is going to protect our mutual interests against a common, aggressive, belligerent agenda. We need to explore that. So these are, again, I'm not advocating this, but I'm just saying that if Greenland added an extra layer of sovereignty and became a province, I think that that would enhance the security a lot more than simply, saying, oh, well, we want to have our self-determination. Da, da, da. Fascists do not respect the rule of law. Fascists do not respect national self-determination. Fascists don't respect democracy. Fascists don't expect international law. Fascists don't respect sovereignty. The only thing that fascists respect is your ability to defend yourselves operationally and institutionally from that fascism. That's the only thing that fascists respect is power and authority and your and the pres and your and to the extent to which you're willing to back it up. So this is, again, this is just not advocating this, but I think that in a conversation where we as Canadians don't want Americans moving up on our north, that means if we don't want Americans moving up our north, we don't want Americans taking over Greenland. And I think that the Canadian government realizes that. They are taking baby steps with respect to this consular mission. But I think that now that the south of the border, they've appointed this envoy, which is going on. Oh well, we had the Louisiana Purchase, and and this is how the United States has grown through annexing parts and regions, uh, oftentimes against their will. There needs to be a practical discussion amongst the Greenlanders that are they going to just simply rely on sovereignty and national self-determination against fascists, or are they think that they're going to be protected by an army of just 21,000 against the fascists, or are they going to look at Canada and say that, well, you know what, we want to maintain our identity with Danish identity, we want to maintain our identity with Denmark, but provincehood with Canada is going to give us that extra security, and it's going to complement our identity with the Inuit in a manner which is going to be a positive for us. And so that, there needs to be a coming together there, because we can't afford as Canadians. We need to have this dialogue. We need to start discussing it, because we can't afford the Americans moving in and, to Greenland and taking over Canada's north quickly after that. So again, this is my 2 bits worth. Let's see. I'm looking forward to everybody's, what 2 bits on this. Like, what do you think? Do you think that Greenland should just wait and see, or do you think that in Greenland there needs to be a discussion? I know that there's been articles, a couple articles about Greenland joining Canada and different things like that, and we interviewed somebody about that as well. And you can check it out in one of our videos there. So what do you think about this? Do you think that Greenland should just wait and see, and Denmark should just wait and see, or do you think that definitely Canada and Greenland are sort of trying to expand and exchange consular missions? Do you think that needs to be expedited in light of the further aggressiveness that the Trump administration is showing through the appointment of an envoy? So what's your thoughts? Thanks for watching another edition of the Ottawa Market.